months, if not years, until the resolution of the economics. And then, you know, as we talked a little earlier, so you put your house up for sale, so what? It's not selling.
Yes.
So it's just harder. It's just really harder.
And Don, timing is everything here. Again, somebody may want to get a divorce, and they may be fed up, and you know they're saying, "Look, I'm going to sleep upstairs in the extra bedroom, you know, even if it kills me, because I'm not going to tank on this. I don't want to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy or what have you." But really, what's underlying all of this is that maybe parties are waiting for that sweet spot, the time that they can actually file for divorce. And I know no one's a Swami, but I bet you there are people out there consulting their financial managers and their astrologers to find out when, you know, when the economy is going to get better, because filing and timing is of the essence if you're talking about the financial aspects behind divorce, not the emotional one necessarily.
Yeah, it can be. You know, the question always is when to value assets. What's a fair way to value it? If it's a marital asset, a general rule is you value it closest to the date that is to be distributed. But there's exceptions to that rule, such as a person who has their own business and they might have depleted the business after the separation, so there it would be fair, as an example, to do it on the date of separation. I think there's some of that, but human nature is that I do think that it's both financial and wanting to get out of the marriage. And at a certain point in time, this process can be brutal. And I find people that originally have all that sort of thought about waiting for the values to go up and that sort of thing, ultimately, they sometimes will just say, you know, I just can't wait anymore, and whatever it is, and I'm going to get out. And that's just an individual decision. I can't value that. None of us here, or no lawyer, can value what that's worth.
I was going to say, Bonnie, do you ever weigh in on that at all? Because obviously, you know, that gets into territory that a lawyer and no one but the person is probably equipped to handle.
I think when I weigh in, I say it's your decision, not mine. I'm giving you the advice. But let me just tell you how different New Jersey is from Pennsylvania.
Yes.
We value assets as of the date of complaint.
Okay, so if I'm
unless it's the home.
All right, all right.
The home is valued at the time of trial, unless you set some other time, because the courts say that those home values will go up and down for as a result of market forces and not as a result of anyone's work effort supplied. So we're going to value that as close to trial as possible. Otherwise, everything's valued as of the date of the complaint.
All right, so let me see if I understand this. So that means that if I'm going to file for divorce, then I have some control here, because unless my spouse files first, of course, and then my control has evaporated. But there might be some control in a person's hand, because the minute I file, now the assets more or less, their value, except for the home, is frozen.
And, for example, if you're a person that you know in 6 months from now, I'm going to get a huge hit in my company, and I'm going to get a big bonus, or I'm going to get, you know, 50,000 stock options.
Right.
May or may not be valuable, but you know that. You might want to file earlier.
Yes.
So if you file, the closer you file to receipt of that, the more likely you are you're going to have to distribute that. But if you know that that's coming, you know, many times we'll say, file now, cut off his rights. File now, cut off her rights.
Yeah. About 10 minutes ago, you asked the question about divorce planning. That goes into divorce planning, and people who are doing this, A, because they want to get divorced, but B, want it to be the most economically advantageous time to do it. Those are the clients that need to talk this through with their attorneys, because as Bonnie's telling you a couple of examples, and we'll give you examples on the other side, that's why it really becomes instrumental to have that kind of planning, because there are different valuation issues. We have so many unique circumstances to each case that we can't broad brush it. But what we can say is, if you're thinking about a divorce, you need to go talk to a lawyer, not the person in the beauty parlor.
Yeah, that's. I think Dave and Bonnie make a good point, Chris, because in Pennsylvania, one of the big deals is the date of separation, and that really determines what's going to be considered marital and in the pot up to date of separation. And then after the separation, you can acquire non-marital assets. So that's an example of divorce planning, but it's so tailored to the circumstances of the individual I really think that if you want to divorce plan, and I think a person should, they have to talk to a lawyer and lay that information out so they can get advice that's particularized to them.
Right, and again, it may not mean that they're going to, as you say, pull the trigger or decide that they're going to move forward with divorce, but they at least need to sit down and pay the consultation fee, you know, get an hour of FaceTime with an attorney across the desk and at least ferret out, you know, what their rights are.
Well, because after they hear what the lawyer says, they may decide it's not a good thing to separate or to get a divorce. That's what they have to hear.
Or it makes no difference. I may as well do it now.
Right.
Right.
Well, all the years of being on the set here with all of these learned minds, and I think we calculated somewhere around 90 years combined experience here on the set, give or take. Here's just a quick punch list of general advice moving into divorce during this tough economy. First, deal with the house. Make sure you know what it is you want. Make sure you know what the value is. Dealing with the house first and foremost may be the most critical economic element. Secondly, plan for disasters. Make sure that if alimony is part of the equation here, that you are well aware of the fact that someone could lose a job, and it could be you, and you might want to make sure that that's in your agreement. Third, consider bankruptcy. And if you're going to consider it before or after divorce, obviously it's going to impact your rights. Number 4, consider mediation. And number 5, ultimately, your goal is peace of mind. Don't let the economic decisions drive your divorce. They're important, but ultimately your peace of mind is what is most important. And speaking of peace of mind, I have to ask all the attorneys, you know, I kid Don Spry about him being a runner and getting rid of the stress and that sort of thing. Because, look, let's face it, all 3 of you are very successful. You're all in very large practices. But the fact of the matter is you're dealing with a really intense issue almost every day of your life. So I suspect sometimes, you know, you need to get out. You need to get away from it. In this tough economic time, do you find, and this is kind of a personal question, do you find that you really have to take more time away? Do you have to run more miles a day, as Don Spry would do? Because let's face it, the climate, people coming in with their problems, the tough economic times we're in, I would have to think that the stress level has gone up.
I think you always have to try to maintain your objectivity. I actually find it, even though it's more stressful in these times, I find it more stressful in dealing with things like custody than I do with assets. It's my, you know, my personal view. But I just think you have to try not to personalize it as a lawyer. Otherwise, we're not doing our job.
Would you agree with Don that custody visitation issues are actually more stressful even on the attorney as well?
Well, I think they are, because I find that clients place huge expectations on us to get exactly what they want, and that may not always happen, especially in custody and parenting time issues.
And a lot of times the custody cases, I've been dealing with a couple of relocation cases where there's no compromise. Either the child moves to Minnesota or the child stays in Pennsylvania. So there's really no middle ground. And those are really difficult emotional cases. And most judges will tell you those are the worst cases that they have to decide, because there's no gray. It's black or white, and it's hard. But you know, in terms of your stress mode, I can tell you another factor is people have trouble paying their bills. And therefore, again, all of us in the institutions we're in are getting the pressure from our supervisors, get the money in, get the money in, get the money in, and it's not coming in as quickly. So it just adds to that stress a little more.
Right. Well, you know, here at the American Law Journal, we're looking out for your well-being as well as the people who watch the program. And again, not just for the consumers and the individuals watching tonight, but even our attorneys. If you need more legal information, it's very easy. Go to our website, lawjournaltv.com. Again, every program that we broadcast here later goes up to the website as a webcast. If you need information in 2 to 3 dozen different areas of practice, it's there. Call us toll-free, 888-78-LAW-TV. Write to us at info@lawjournaltv.com. Go to the website and get your law on demand. I want to thank my guests, Bonnie Frost with Einhorn Harris, Asher Barbarito, and Frost, Don Spry with King, Spry, Herman, Freund, and Fall, and David LaDove, of course, with Cozen O'Connor. For all of us here at the American Law Journal, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week, next Monday night at 7 o'clock. Good night. Have a good week.
The American Law Journal is made possible in part by Cozen O'Connor, a full-service client-oriented law firm among the 100 largest in the United States, serving both business and private clients, headquartered in Philadelphia with over 20 offices throughout the U.S. and in London. Einhorn, Harris, Asher, Barbarito, Frost, for over 40 years, building its reputation serving individuals, commercial and private business clients in personal injury, zoning, estate planning, criminal law, and one of the largest family law practices in the state of New Jersey, with offices in Denville. King, Spry, Herman, Freund, and Fall, a comprehensive practice serving its clients in family law, business, personal injury, and school law matters for over 30 years, with offices in Allentown, Bethlehem, and Stroudsburg. And Scheller PC, winning large verdicts for people injured by dangerous medicine, including antidepressants and antipsychotics, as well as medical malpractice and products liability claims, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Florida. Scheller, preserving the rights of the injured for over 30 years.
And The Legal Intelligencer, the nation's oldest legal publication and daily newspaper for lawyers.